Warren Buffett, the so-called Oracle of Omaha, has described Bitcoin as rat poison squared. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman has observed that even after more than a decade of advancements, the role of cryptocurrencies in regular U.S. economic activity remains almost nil. In fact, he compares Bitcoin and the like to long-running Ponzi scheme. Then there's Bill Gates, the founder of software behemoth Microsoft. He has frequently criticized cryptocurrencies for harming the environment. By his own estimates, Bitcoin uses more electricity than any other process for creating new transactions ever devised. Despite such skepticism by a host of well-known students of global financial markets, mom and pop speculators around the world keep choosing to trade digital assets. In order to take a deeper look at these online alternative currencies, we've caught up with Brian Sparling, co-founder and chief technology officer at Mutara Inc., which is headquartered in the Bay Area. He's an MIT-educated software engineer who has worked, among others, as director of GE Digital's virtual software factory and as senior director of strategic technologies at German multinational software giant SAP. In 2019, he helped to form a new company, Mutara, which develops software applications used by college and university administrators across the country to optimize their admissions and enrollment systems. Thank you, Brian, for taking the time today to talk to us.
You're very welcome.
And did I say the name of your company correctly? I had to watch a Star Trek movie video to check the pronunciation.
Yeah, it's actually Mutara.
Mutara. And it's named after a subsystem in Star Trek?
Yeah, it's the Wrath of Khan. It actually is a nebula in that fictional world.
Okay, very cool. With such extensive education experience in the technology industry, you must be a big fan of cryptocurrencies, correct?
Not at all. Cryptocurrency has a lot of flaws to it, that's for sure.
And that's from an engineering standpoint?
Technologically, the concept of blockchain and managing transactions digitally, that part is very sound and makes a lot of sense. But for currency to be a currency like a digital currency like this, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's no. Does it matter that a $1 bill is traced between different people? It's really what it comes down to.
Can you explain that? What do you mean traced?
Sure. So the concept of blockchain is in essence to manage information about something, right? So if I've got something that is passed between people, paid by currency of some sort, that thing itself has information about who owned it previously. That's the concept behind blockchain. You can always go back and find out who owned this previously. In terms of currency, that's basically it's an idea, not a physical thing. In this case, it's akin to saying I've got a dollar bill. Why do I need to know where this dollar bill has been? Is really what it comes down to, and that's kind of what blockchain does. Is it allows you to know this $1 bill has been owned by these number of people since it was created. And that has no intrinsic value in and of itself. So the concept of having a currency that you know where it's belonged doesn't really mean anything. And then, of course, there's the concept that any cryptocurrency, in order to be used in the economy, has to actually be traded in for actual currency to be used in that vein. So it's very much a speculative idea to keep that as a digital idea for the currency itself. And it really doesn't make any sense in terms of like, why do I need to know where that dollar bill is or came from?
Well, you keep seeing articles and headlines in the papers about fraud and theft of cryptocurrencies. Is the software behind it that sketchy, or is it just, again, the concept is just doesn't make sense?
It's a concept that has a problem with it in the sense that there is no centralized management infrastructure for crypto. The whole idea is that it's a peer-to-peer kind of network. So if you have enough processing power across different machines, you can actually hijack crypto. As long as you have the wallet ID, you can actually say, hey, whatever's in this wallet now belongs to X. As long as you have enough machines that say that's true, that will happen. Now, there are some safeguards in place for that, but it's much more easy to create fraud in an environment where machines are making the votes, not a centralized thing saying this has actually happened.
Sure. And then there's a zillion different cryptocurrencies, correct?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, which is there is no standard of crypto, right? There's Bitcoin, there's Dogecoin, there's a whole bunch of different ideas behind it. The technology is basically the same in most cases, but it's each one of those is basically creating their own centralized management system that says, "Hey, this is the way we're going to do it," and work from there. But that in and of itself is basically going against the whole concept of distributed infrastructure, right? I'm creating a centralized thing that says this is how it's done. Why not use a bank to do that? Because each one of these that pops up, they're going to have different foibles, different issues that crop up simply because they're trying to do something different each time. And each one of those is going to have its own problems, different kinds of ways to circumvent the security, circumvent the ownership, if you will, of a particular wallet.
Okay. From a software development standpoint,
Mhm.
is it really easy to create these things?
It's fairly straightforward. I mean, there's a whole series of different platforms that you can use. Most of them are pay to use, basically, Ethereum, things like that. But you can actually go back to, because blockchain is in essence open source, you can go back to initial principles and build up your own platform around that concept. So it's not overly difficult, which is one of the reasons why you're seeing like a plethora of these companies coming out of the woodwork saying, I've got all this coin and you can exchange it. It really does come down to the fact that there's no centralized governance about how that actually happens and how the exchanges happen. The only place that the exchanges actually get noticed is when you're exchanging it for actual currency or bartering it for something else.
Is there any real technological way to protect 100% your investments in cryptocurrency?
No, and that's actually the other problem. In a centralized currency, you can actually set up safeguards, right? You can actually say, if things hit a particular point, we can actually produce more money, or do something to the economy to give it like credence, so that there's actually weight behind it. In the case of crypto, a collapse of a crypto coin basically doesn't get noticed, right? The value could go to zero because nobody exchanges it, or it has no, or people just got disinterested. And when it goes away, there's no exchanging it for something that has value at that point. So it can actually go to zero without anybody noticing, and there's no repercussion for that at all.
And the headlines keep talking about artificial intelligence and how this is going to really help Bitcoin and the like. You've studied artificial intelligence, correct?
Yeah, part of my degree at MIT was in cognitive sciences, and as an offshoot of that, our artificial intelligence is one of the areas of study there.
Okay. Do you see a practical application with cryptocurrencies?
Well, there's some things that you can do, and artificial intelligence has a couple of misnomer meanings. They use it a lot today for describing what are normally considered expert systems. People inject information into a computer system, which then creates rules by which the computer system can do work.
Sure.
That's what today's kind of artificial intelligence is about. AI in a general concept could be used to identify patterns in use, things like that, where people are doing the work, the computers are kind of augmenting that to kind of chase down things that would be interesting to a human later on. But in general, it's not going to really change how artificial intelligence works because it's dealing with people and what people are doing themselves. Google and their analytics that they use for marketing actually are probably further along in artificial intelligence, if you will, than anything around the crypto environment.
Hmm. Finally, I wanted to ask you, given that you work through Mutara, is focused on higher education marketplace, a place that seems to attract many fans of cryptocurrencies, uh, couldn't your views and invite a certain amount of backlash?
Not really. Most of I mean, the customers that we have for Mutara are higher education. Obviously, they're universities, they're two-year institutions, they're basically their job is to educate people. And education can come in many forms. And computer science, of course, is going to have a lot to say around things like blockchain and cryptocurrency, and have a lot of things to talk about there. But that's really discussion, right? Education is about knowledge transfer and discussion. It's not about like saying this is perfect and moving forward. So there really isn't going to be a backlash for us, I don't think, especially since one of our, from our perspective, the big thing that we're doing is helping institutions save money just doing their day-to-day job, right? That's our goal. So.
Sure. So yeah, but I assume you hear, just like we all do, a lot of younger people get real excited about cryptos.
Yeah, they get it's like the next shiny toy, I think, is the way I think of it. They look at it as a way that money can be created out of nothing, in a way. And obviously in economics, that's not the way things work, right? Money is representative of something in an economy. It's not actually the economy itself, although the stock market and securities can actually be a little bit speculative in that nature, and in futures can be a little bit interesting. But all of that said, it still boils down to the economy actually is, and currency really is something to someone. And in cryptocurrency, it's whatever I can exchange it for on a given day that gets me something.
Yeah.
Paying Bitcoin for something today means somebody's got to exchange it for money at some point. So
yeah. So there's really no value.
no value at all. And I tend to agree with Bill Gates about the harming of just the environment in general. The amount of heat generated by the computational aspects of creating and mining for Bitcoin is astronomical, and it really is not helping us at all in terms of like our future on this planet. So.
Okay. Well, Brian, thank you very much again for taking the time today, and
My
it's
pleasure.
been very educational. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.